don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.
Welcome to the Weekly Sports Guy podcast. I'm your host, Ashton Alcock, and today we're going to be doing something special for this podcast, as well as we're going to be going through my full season predictions from today to Friday. Friday, you're going to have the playoff predictions, final standings, draft order, who's going to win the Super Bowl, award predictions, all that stuff will be coming on Friday. But each day for the next 4 days, I'm going to be doing each division, going down through each game, moves they made in the offseason, kind of highlighting what each team did, how I think each team's going to go, and then we're going to go through it, and then by the end of the week, we'll have the final standings, who wins Super Bowl, who's Super Bowl MVP, who's MVP, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to do dark horses as well. I did a full 2 days worth of prep for this, so it's going to be kind of fun. But before we get started, I do want to talk about two topics that are getting done this week in the NFL, is the voting on some rule changes. The first one is banning the tush push. To me, I don't think it should be banned. The Eagles came really successful at it. You can't really judge a team because how they run an offense, right? Like, when you look at it, any team can do the tush push. Any team. That doesn't mean you're going to be successful, but you can do it. Like, Sean McVay came out saying, he's like, we tried it. I didn't like it at first, but we tried it. We weren't successful. If we were, we'll keep doing it. So why punish one team for being really successful at it? Like, obviously, there are some concerns, like Raheem Morris brought up, it could cause a catastrophic injury to the head and neck because you're in like a submarine position. But the other thing is, it's like, if you do it right, you won't get hurt, right? Like, you have your center and your guards pushing in front of you, so you're pretty much following them. And typically, half of the time, you do fall on the ground. It's almost like it's a stronger QB sneak. Like, at this point, don't do the QB sneak anymore from under center and then just running forward. At this point, make QB sneaks in shotgun if you really want it to be super safe. But the issue is, if you do it right, it's going to be safe. And the other rule change is proposed by the Lions, and that is reseeding based not on division winners, but based on record. I do like the idea. The only concern I do have is that if you win the division, what do you get? And that's where it kind of gets a little iffy. I do like the idea because there's times where we've seen, like this past season, the NFC had the Lions and, my gosh, I'm blanking. The Vikings have over 13 wins, and the Vikings swing at the 5th seed. Like, that's a little unfair, and I can understand the point of where the Lions are coming from, is that, like, at one point, one of the two teams are going to get screwed over. Doesn't seem fair, but also it's then now not fair if you do change it. Now, what do you do if you're the Buffalo Bills and you win the division, or you can't say Chiefs, or you're the Bengals or Ravens who win the division, the Texans? Like, what's the worth of doing it when the second team in the AFC North or the NFC North or whatever division they're in has a better record than me because I had a tougher schedule? Like, now if you go think about it, let's say hypothetically, the Vikings go 12-5, the Detroit Lions go 13-4, but the Buccaneers win the division at 10-7. Like, how is that fair that the Vikings, who have an easier schedule, let's say in this case, versus the Tampa, who had a harder schedule, how is that fair for them to get it? So that's where I'm kind of getting questionable. I'm 50-50 with it. If they do it, I'm cool with it. If they don't, I'm cool with it. If they do go with it, they need to do something for the division winners just so it can be fair. Don't say they just won the division and it just goes on a tally mark. Like, give them something or whatever. But let's get into it. We're going to start off today with the AFC East and the AFC North. We're going to start off in the AFC East. We're going to start off with the Buffalo Bills. The Bills this year are going to be quite interesting. They did sign Josh Allen to that 6-year, $330 million deal right after he got his MVP award. I think it's a good move. They brought back Reggie Gillum and Ty Johnson. They also signed Elijah Moore to a 1-year deal. Josh Palmer extended Khalil Shakir, who had a big year. Their big move is definitely getting Joey Bosa I know it's a 1-year deal, but they get a guy who can get to the quarterback. Only thing is, he does need to stay healthy. Gregory Rousseau getting his extension. That was smart by them. Bringing back Tre'Davious White. Hopefully, he can go back to somewhat of his old self. Injuries really reeled his career. And then in the draft, I think they also had a decent draft, if I can find their draft. They got Maxwell Harrison, could be a good corner for them. TJ Sanders, Landon Jackson are solid. Jordan Hancock, I do like. They get Chase Lunt from UConn as a tackle. So they got a decent draft class. I wouldn't say it's like the best draft class in my opinion, but it's definitely not the worst. It's a solid draft class. They got another tight end, which makes no sense to me unless they're planning on trying to trade Kincaid or Knox. Probably more likely Knox. He's getting on the other end. But when we go look at their schedule, it's kind of a tough schedule. Week 1, they have the Ravens on Sunday Night Football at home. I had them losing that game. I think it's going to be a very good game. I always see Baltimore. They seem like they have a really strong first week, and then they kind of go 50-50. Week 2, they got the Jets in New York, I think. They both are in New York, but in East Rutherford. I had them beating the Jets. They have the Dolphins, Saints, and Patriots all at home. Dolphins is Thursday Night Football. Patriots is Sunday Night Football. And I have them win those 3, so they're at this point 4-1. Then week 6, they go to Atlanta, Monday Night Football. Again, they get another W. Then they have their bye week. You got Carolina and Kansas City. I think they win both games. They've shown so many times throughout the season that they can, throughout the years, they can beat the Chiefs in the regular season. We'll see. Maybe this year they can get it done in the postseason, but we'll find out. Week 10's in Miami. I had them losing that game. Week 11 versus the Bucs, winning. Against Houston, I had them losing that game. I kind of switched up after a second. I had them winning that game, and I was like, no, I feel like that could be a loss on a Thursday Night Football. Week 13 at Pittsburgh. Again, another team which we'll highlight later. I don't know where they're going to be at for quarterback. I have them Bills winning that game. I have them beating the Bengals, losing to the Patriots in Foxborough Week 15, beating the Browns in Cleveland, losing to Philly, and then beating the Jets at home. I think it's a fairly good schedule. Obviously, you're a better team, so better opponents you're going to get. So, like, you're going to have the Ravens, you're going to have the Chiefs. You're more likely, like, you have the Bucs because we play their division. We also play the AFC North, so that's why you get the Ravens, you get the Bengals. But you also end up getting Philly because you play an NFC East based on your standing as the extra game. You got the Eagles because they were the ones they won their division as well. So they get the Super Bowl champion Week 17, which I think will be a tough game, and that's why I had them losing. 12-5 is the way I have them going. I do think it's very much a strong team. I think they have a chance. I have them winning the division as well, but I think it's going to be a really good team. Next one is the Miami Dolphins, and this one to me is a little questionable. I don't know the health of Tua. You don't know how healthy he's going to be. I'm just trying to get to their draft class. But where is it? Sorry, I'm trying to find them. Give me 1 second. Yep, I found their draft class because I can get over here. So during the offseason, they did not get as many pieces as many people thought. They brought in Pharaoh Brown, a veteran tight end, Alexander Madison, who has had his time, Nick Westbrook-Akine, he got a 2-year deal. They brought in Zach Wilson, but there's no really big person they brought in. Like Liam Eichenberg, he re-signed, but their O-line has not been good. Artie Burns is an okay corner, stuff like that. James Daniels is a solid guard that they brought in to try to protect Tua, but I think they should have done more. And then in the draft, they got Kenneth Grant, who, for me, he's a great player, but I think it's a little bit of reach at 13. I thought he was going to fall a few picks behind. If they really, really wanted him, I would have traded back to get him. In the second round, they got guard/tackle Jonah Savianea. I probably mispronounced his name, but again, another tackle I think they reached on. And then you got defensive tackle Jordan Phillips, solid pick. You got Ollie Gordon in the 6th round, which I do like. Great value there. And in the 7th round, you got Quinn Ewers, who, if Tua doesn't work out, you have a guy who can possibly take over. And to look at their schedule isn't the worst, but it isn't the best. They got some tough teams there. Week 1, they got Indianapolis. I have them winning. I have them beating the Patriots. Week 2 at home, they have the Bills away. Thursday Night Football Week 3. That's the loss, like we saw. Then they have them beating the Jets. What is it? The Jets, Panthers, losing to the Chargers, beating the Browns in Cleveland. Actually, no, I had them losing. I had this one as the surprise loss. But beating Atlanta, losing to Baltimore, beating Buffalo, then losing to the Commanders, going into their bye week. Coming out of the bye week, it seems like a favorable schedule. Other than it's like 50-50. The first 3 games, I could see them winning, but I have them beating New Orleans, losing to the Jets away, beating Pittsburgh, and then losing the Bengals, losing to the Bucs, and losing Week 18 in New England. They've shown time and time again that the reason like everyone's like, oh, they're still going to sweep the Patriots. I don't see it. The Patriots are a way better team this year. They have a better coach, and I'll go into them when we get to them. But the thing is that Week 18, they proved time and time again that they are not good in the cold. They've never really been great in the cold. You saw them in Green Bay a couple years ago. We've seen it last year. There's so many teams that they could have done, but the issue is I don't really see how you could be a team like the Miami Dolphins who play in the warm weather all day. You're going to play 2 games straight before then at home in Miami against the Bengals and the Bucs, who are 2 way better teams. I know the Bengals defensively aren't as good as some other teams, but I don't think their defense is going to be that much of a joke this year. I think the defense is going to be a lot more improved this year than it was last year. Tampa Bay, they're one of the better well-rounded teams. They got Chris Godwin back. We'll talk about them in a couple days when we cover the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and that division. And then Week 18 is like you're going to go into Foxborough where probably is going to be snow, low 20s, maybe high 20s if they're lucky, windstorm, whatever, and they're not going to be prepared to play in that weather, and that's why I have them losing. And 2, I just think it's always going to typically be a split most of the time between these 2 teams because we struggle in Miami, they struggle up in Foxborough, especially if it's in the cold. In the warm, they typically play better because they're just used to it. But when it comes down to Week 18, they are not going to do it, and I have them going 8-9, which is a fair assessment of this team. They're not perfect by any means. Let me just double check. Yeah, I have them going 8-9. I just want to make sure that I didn't write the wrong record, and they went like 7-10. I originally thought of them being a 7-10 team, but then I realized that there's some favorable games in here. Cleveland, they could win, but I just have a weird feeling that this will be the one game Miami just doesn't show up for no reason. And Cleveland just takes advantage of it, and it's like a 13-10 game. But 8-9 is a fair statement of where this team is at. The next team is my New England Patriots. To me, I think they had an A++ offseason. They go out and they go get Stephon Diggs, Matt Collins, who is a solid guy, Morgan Moses to protect, Garrett Bradbury, who replaces David Andrews. Then on defense, they went out and got some dogs. You got Milton Williams, who played phenomenal for the Eagles defense. Harold Landry, who was really good with Titans, especially under Mike Vrabel. Robert Spillane and Carlton Davis are 2 guys that are going to be key pieces of defense. Robert Spillane he can do anything for you. He's a great middle linebacker. He can attack the run. He's good against the pass. And then you sign Carlton Davis, who's probably going to be one of the better, make one of the best duos at corner. Carlton Davis can be a 1 on many teams, and he's going to be the Patriots' number 2 corner alongside Christian Gonzalez. And then along as having an A free agency, they go out and have another A+ draft, in my opinion. Well, another A. I don't really go by A+, but they go out and get Will Campbell to be your left tackle of the future. Then you steal Travion Henderson, who could have won the first round or higher. And you had 2 teams like the Bears and a mysterious team that they won't reveal, who had pick 58, which we could find out. But I'm not going to dive deep. I'll probably figure out one day when I doing this thing. Like, oh yeah, that was the team that tried to trade up to go get Travion Henderson, who is a home run pick. He has home run speed. He's a game changer. He can be an all down back. He can catch the ball. He can block. He can run. He's fast. It's pretty much anything you want from a wide receiver, running back. Then the third round, on the way back around, they go get Kyle Williams, the wide receiver out of Washington State, a guy who, like, skyrocketed to draft boards. He had a good season. He had 14 touchdowns, over 1,000 yards receiving. And then next thing you know, he's going into that game that they play, the Senior Bowl game, where they have all the prospects play together, all the scouts are there, and he's running routes. He's an elite route runner. He showed off his speed. He can show off he has great hands. And he's going to fit well with Josh McDaniels, who's going to know actually how to use him. He's actually a wide receiver with a skill set that fits the Josh McDaniels type of system, where we've have a very poor time drafting these types, like, wide receivers. We've drafted N'Keal Harry. We even got Tyquan Thornton, who was really fast. I think Kyle Williams had, like, one of the fastest speeds of all time on the 40. Then in the next pick in the third round, they traded back twice. And they were targeting this guy, and they got Jared Wilson, the center out of Georgia. He was the best center in the draft. He was the most athletic. I know he was great, Gray Zabel, but to be honest, Gray Zabel to me is more of a guard than he is a center. I know Jared Wilson can play guard as well. He'll be moved around this season. Then the fourth round, they get Craig Woodson, who I wasn't really a high pick on, but I'm still not super high on it just because we have Kyle Duggar, we have Jabril Peppers, we have Martin Mapu, who look pretty good. It also doesn't hurt to have the depth with Craig Woodson. Maybe Jabril Peppers plays more of a sub linebacker role, where Craig Woodson will play the pure safety role. He's a guy who can go all over the field. Then the fourth and fifth rounds, they get another 2 steals, and Joshua Farmer, who most people had as a day 2 pick, falls into the fourth round. You grab him, you trade up for him. And then in round 5, you get another day 2 possible pick in Braden Swinson out of LSU. 2 guys who can get after the quarterback. Joshua Farmer is like a 6'4", 318-pound defensive tackle, and Braden Swinson's another guy who comes right out the edge. Then in round 6, you get a kicker. You needed a kicker. You get the best kicker in the draft. Then in round 7, you get Kobe Maya, the corner out of Memphis, with the last pick of the draft. And then you get Marcus Bryant, another beefy tackle who's probably most likely going to make this roster. They need as much depth as they can. You can't go in with Vander and Lau as your possibly only backup tackle. For me, it's been a great draft. They also hired the best coach available in Mike Vrabel. I know people are like, oh, we should have got Ben Johnson. But I'm like, to me, the Ben Johnson, Mike Vrabel debate shouldn't even be one. I've seen him ranked higher than Mike Vrabel, and I'm like, I don't see it. I don't know how you could see it. Vrabel has taken teams that don't belong in the realm of being in the playoffs with that Tennessee Titans team. There was a couple of years where he had, like, the hospital team. 2021, he played an NFL record 92 players that season. Do that. How many injuries they had. And when you go back to look at it, well, here you go. And now he gets fired after a bad year in his last year in Tennessee 2 years ago. And then now he goes to the New England Patriots where he used to play. And now he's going to build this team into a new culture. You can already see if you watch The Forge and Fire how much of a leader this guy is. So getting to this schedule, it's a fairly favorable schedule for the Patriots. I think it starts off easy in the first half, gets a little harder in the second. So let's get into it. Week 1, you got the Raiders. You win that game. I think you beat the Raiders. I think they're still in shambles from the Gruden, McDaniels, the Gruden ending of Gruden into McDaniels, into Antonio Pierce. So they kind of like still trying to build a culture there. I think it'll be a close game. Patriots win that game. Then I had them losing in Miami. Then they have them at home twice versus the Steelers and Panthers. I had them beating both. Again, Steelers, we'll talk about them when I get to the team, which will be in this episode because we are covering the AFC North as well, is that the Steelers, who's their quarterback, we don't know. Week 5 at Buffalo. Loss. I think they'll split with Buffalo this year, or worst case scenario, they do lose to Buffalo both times. But if you're Patriots, I think you can bite the tongue on that one, but it'll be fine. Then you have 4 favorable games. In New Orleans, win. Mike Vrabel's revenge game in Tennessee, win. Cleveland, win. I think you beat Atlanta, win. So that's 4 straight wins going into the Tampa Bay game where I have them losing in Tampa. Then you have the Jets on Thursday Night Football. You beat the Jets. Week 12 in Cincinnati, you lose. Cincinnati's going to be one of the best teams this year. They're one of my underrated teams based off from where they ended last year. Week 13, Monday Night Football against the Giants, you win. Then you come on to go into Week 14 into your bye week. Week 15, I have them winning. Week 16 in Baltimore, they lose. Then I have them in Week 17 surprisingly losing to the Jets. I think this screams to me a stinker game that they always pull off. And then Week 18 against Miami at home, they win. I think 11-6 for the Patriots is a perfect record for them. I made a mistake. They beat the Jets Week 17. They go 11-6. That's my fault. I did my math wrong. 1, 2, 3. No, they have them losing the Jets. I wrote one name wrong, and that was the Jets. Oh, no. I made a mistake. That's my fault. It's Buffalo that beats. We lose to Buffalo Week 15. My fault. I forgot we get swept by Buffalo again this year. I mistakenly wrote it wrong. So we go 11-6, and that means Buffalo will end up 13-4. That is my fault. I meant to say we lost to the Bills. I mistakenly miswrote. So the Patriots going 11-6, fairly good. I do think they're overall as good of a team as Buffalo. I just feel like by the time Week 15 comes, Buffalo's already red hot, where we might be a little cold. They come off a win against Cincinnati and Pittsburgh in a row. I think they just cruise, and I think it'll be a close game. I think it'll be like 27-24 type of game. But for the Patriots, going 11-6 your first year, Mike Vrabel, second year Drake May, with his new revamped team, an offensive coordinator that can actually call plays. That's a very good team going into it. So if you are the Patriots, I think you leave pretty happy. The last team in the AFC East is the New York Jets. And to me, their schedule seems all right. But going into it, they got Justin Fields. You get a quarterback type player. Then they signed Tyler Johnson and Josh Reynolds. 2 guys who are solid, but they're not great. Akume Okafor, he was on the Patriots last year, gave up 2 seconds into it. They bring back Jameer Sherwood, but then they go out and get Brandon Stevens, to me, which made no sense. He is one of the worst cover corners. I know they're trying to revamp. You lose DJ Reed. I think he went to the Lions, if I remember. So it's like, when you look at it, it's not great. And then they go into the draft, and you go get Armand Membu, which I liked, Mason Taylor, which I like. Azura Thomas, I think, is from Florida State. The corner is a solid pick. And then I just think Arian Smith, he's confusing me. He doesn't really have the greatest hands, but he has good speed. Malachi Moore, solid. Francisca Muagoa, I think is how you pronounce it. A good pick in round 5. And I also like Tyler Barron, also out of Miami, the edge rusher in the 5th round. I think they had a B+, overall offseason, I think, for a first-time coach. To me, it's a C+ draft. I think there's some picks in here where I'm just, scratching my head, like Arian Smith when there's other receivers aboard. But a C+ draft to a B+, a B+ offseason is a solid B+, B. I can't really determine where I want them. But for me, that's a solid offseason if you are the New York Jets and under your first-year GM. Going into their season, though, I have them being Week 1, they play the Steelers. I have them winning. I have them losing to Buffalo. losing in Tampa, losing in Miami, beating Dallas at home, losing to Denver in London, beating the Panthers, losing to the Bengals in Cincinnati, go into your bye week, come out of your bye week with a loss to Cleveland. No, a win against Cleveland. My fault. A loss to New England, a loss in Baltimore, a loss at home against Atlanta, but have you beating Miami, beating Jacksonville in Jacksonville, beating New Orleans, losing to the Pats, and then losing to Buffalo. I have them going 7-10. They do finish fourth place in the. So going overall, I have. Now I do need to make a change in my standings. It doesn't really affect my overall standings, but it does affect record things. So with the AFC East, I had the Bills winning the division at 13-4. After I noticed that mistake I made, I had the Patriots going 11-6, the Dolphins going 9-8, and the Jets in fourth place at 7-10. And if you're a Jets fan, going 7-10 is not the worst thing, especially with a new head coach in Aaron Glenn, a new GM in Darren Mogi, a new quarterback. Going 7-10 is pretty good. So this division is going to be pretty much what it looks like to be competitive. I think it's finally time this division's actually overall good and not one team running the show. Because, let's be honest, the last 10 years, it's been pretty much the Bills winning and Patriots winning the division. Right in 2021, you had the Patriots being good, but they were never winning the division realistically. Then 2022, you had the Dolphins fighting for the division. 2023, it was just the Bills. And this past year, it was also just the Bills. I know the Dolphins were close, but they weren't really that close realistically. And the Jets were right after them, and then the Patriots finished last again. But this year, I think it's going to be a very competitive. Every team's pretty much a game or two out. The Patriots are 2 games out of first place. The Dolphins are 2 games out of second, and the Jets are a game out third, 4 games out of second, which, to be honest, if you're a team that is trying to figure out if they have a quarterback or not, it's pretty good. Now let's get into my AFC North predictions. This division, to me, is going to be a little weird. I just have to get to them. Give me 1 second. The AFC North. 1 sec. AFC North. So they came in with Cooper Rush, Derrick Henry. In the offseason, let's start off with the Baltimore Ravens. They signed Cooper Rush. They extended Derrick Henry, brought in D-Hop, who's old and washed. They re-signed Ronnie Stanley. They brought in John Jenkins and Chidobe Awuzie on a 1-year deal. And then in the draft, they go out and they get Malachi Starks, Mike Green, Emory Jones Jr. First 3 picks, I think, were phenomenal. Then after that, I think the draft kind of got questionable. I do agree with the NFL giving them a B for this draft class. I think it could have been way better. But going to this schedule, I have them beating Buffalo, beating Cleveland. Both Buffalo's away, Cleveland is at home. Then I have them losing to the Lions week 3 at home, losing to Chiefs in Kansas City. Then I have them beating Houston and then beating the Rams going to the bye week, which makes them go 3-2 going into their bye week. Or if I can do math. 4-2, my bad. I can't do math sometimes. Then after the bye week, they got the Bears, win, Miami, win at Minnesota, win in Cleveland, win at home versus the Jets. I have them winning, beating Cincinnati, losing to Pittsburgh, losing to the Bengals, get the win against the Patriots, get the win versus Green Bay, get the win versus the Steelers. I have them going 12-5. Fairly good season for the Baltimore Ravens. They'll make the playoffs. They'll do their thing. It's a fair schedule for a team that had a good, solid offseason. I don't think it was great. I think the pass offense can still be better. So I don't really think they really need to do much. Now, going on to the next team in this division that we're going to cover is the Cincinnati Bengals, who finished last year, I believe, 9-8, if I remember. This offseason, they signed extensions to T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, two big contracts. They got Samaj P-Ryan, which I do like, on a 2-year deal. He's a solid running back. They brought back a second, a 3-year deal. He was solid for them. They re-signed Cody Ford and Lucas Patrick. Then they re-signed Joseph Asai, B.J. Hill. They brought in Oren Burks, which actually I really like. And they re-signed Marco Wilson. I think it was a solid offseason. I know it's not great and not everyone likes. And then the draft, they go get Shamar Stewart, who actually I do like. I know he had 3.5, 4 sacks in college, but I think he's going to be a solid player. Demetrius Knight Jr. is another guy I do like really well. These two are going to be big players in their on their defense. And then they got in the 3rd round and 4th round, I think 3 through 6, they also just aced it. That was like an A-plus draft. You go get Dylan Fairchild, one of the best guards on the board at that moment. They got Steele and Barrett Carter, who should have went in the second or third round. You got offensive tackle Jalen Rivers, a solid tackle out of Miami. And then they got running back Taj Brooks out of Texas Tech. I think overall, their draft was an A in my opinion. Obviously, again, my opinion, not what other people think. I think they did what they needed to do, and that's what they get. So with Cincinnati, I had them starting off very strong, winning in Cleveland, beating Jacksonville at home, beating Minnesota in Minnesota, beating Denver in Denver, but then I had them losing to the Lions at home, but then I have them beating Green Bay, Pittsburgh at home, beat the Jets at home, beat the Bears going to the bye week. They're going 9-1 at this point. Then they start off strong again. They beat Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh beat the Patriots. Then they have them losing to Baltimore, losing to Buffalo, but then beating Baltimore, beating Miami and Miami, and then beat Cleveland and Arizona the final 2 weeks. I think going 14-3. I think this is clearly going to be one of the best offenses we ever seen in a while. They've always had a really good offense. I think their offense is going to jump to a new level, and I think their defense is going to play really good this year with their new defense coordinator. I just think it's a very favorable schedule. They're better than majority of these teams out there. The Vikings, I think, is going to be a close win. I could also see them losing, going 13-4. But I have them winning. I just have a weird feeling about that. And I also don't know how good J.J. McCarthy is going to be at this moment in time. So 14-3 to me is a really good season for the Cincinnati Bengals. Next is the Cleveland Browns, a team I'm not a huge fan of what they did. But they brought in Joe Flacco, again, solid backup. They acquired Kenny Pickett. They signed Deontay Johnson, Cornelius Lucas, Tevin Jenkins. Signed Garrett to an extension. They got signed Joe Tryon-Shinoka, the former first-round pick from Tampa. They brought in Jerome Baker and Devin Bush. They also brought Rashawn Jenkins and DeMonte Kazi. I think they had a solid, for the defensive side, they had a very solid signings. They also signed Cornelius Lucas and Telvin Jenkins. And then we went to the draft. They got Mason Graham after a trade down, Carter Schlesinger, Quinshawn Junkins, Harold Fanning Jr., quarterbacks Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders, and then Dylan Santons out of Tennessee. To me, this draft was like a C to me. Mason Graham's a good player, but you should have stuck in pick. Kason Wessinger out of UCLA, I think they could have gone a little bit later. Quinshawn Junkins, I do like the running back. I am a Ohio State Buckeyes fan, but I think they should have took Trayvon Henderson, who went 2 picks later. Hale Fanning Jr. is a good pick. I was fine with Dylan Gabriel, and I did like the Dylan Sampson pick, but I did not like the Shedeur Sanders pick. Just makes no sense to me. And then going to this season, I had them losing to the Bengals week 1, losing to Baltimore, losing to Green Bay, losing to Detroit and Detroit, losing to Minnesota and London, losing to Pittsburgh at home. No, in Pittsburgh. I had them losing to Miami. No, beating Miami, my fault. I had them losing to the Patriots into the bye week. Then they come out, lose to the Jets, lose to the Ravens, beat the Raiders in Vegas, lose to San Fran, lose to the Titans, lose to the Bears in Chicago, lose to Buffalo, beat the Steelers, lose to the Bengals. I think I'm 3-14. This team's just not that good. I think defensively they'll keep themselves in games, but I just don't think it's overall enough, and their offense may not even produce points at times. And the last team we'll be covering today on the episode is the Pittsburgh Steelers, a team I said I was going to talk about. They do not have a quarterback at all. They're going in the season with Mason Rudolph, Skylar Thompson, and now Will Howard, which we'll talk about in a second. They were mentioned to go after, Aaron Rodgers. Seems like it was going somewhere. Seems like it's not. So they get Mason Rudolph, like I said, on a 2-year deal. They got Kenneth Gainwell, who's a solid running back out of Philly from the Eagles. They acquired DK, and then in exchange for the second-round pick 52 and a late pick swap, and they signed a 4-year, $132 million extension with Pittsburgh. But then they go out and trade George Pickens. Now they're looking for a wide receiver too. Scotty Miller, they signed Scotty Miller, Ben Skoranek, they re-signed, and then they signed Robert Woods. They brought in Donald Parham Jr. And then defensively, they brought in Darius Slay and Juan Thornhill. There's not really many other people after that. Danny Okwale was on there as well, but to me, it's just a very questionable offseason. And then they go in the draft, and they go take Derek Harmon, which, saying prayers to you. I know you just lost your mother. I do feel really bad for that. And I feel for him. I'm sorry for your loss, dude. It's very tough, but at least you got to see you that you got drafted, and you got drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers. To me, overall, the pick to me just didn't make any sense. It's just they needed a quarterback. They never really needed a tackle. He's a good player. He's going to be good for them, but I still think they should have went elsewhere. Then in round 3, you got Caleb Johnson, the running back out of Iowa. Good pick, especially you lost Najee. Round 4, edge rusher Jack Sawyer, I do like. And then you get D-tackle Yaya Black, I think is how you pronounce it, from Iowa. And then the 6th round, you get Will Howard, your quarterback. I don't know if he's going to really be a good fit there. And then round 7, you get a linebacker and corner, and linebacker Carson Bruner, and then cornerback Dante Kent. For me, this is just like an C draft, and I think your first 3 picks are your home run picks. Derek Harmon, Caleb Johnson, and Jack Sawyer. I think they're going to be very impactful to your team. And then after that, I just don't really see much talent there. And when you come into it, I have them losing to the Jets, beating Seattle, losing New England in New England, losing to the Vikings in Dublin. You go into your early bye week, which is week 5. Week 6, you have Cleveland, you win. You lose to Cincy, you lose to Green Bay, you beat the Colts. Then you play the Chargers in LA Sunday Night Football. You lose. Then you lose to Cincinnati again in Cincinnati. No, at home, the early game. Then you beat Chicago in Chicago. Lose to the Bills. Lose to Baltimore. Beat Miami. Lose to Detroit. Lose to Cleveland. And then then beat the Ravens. I think they go 6-11. I just think overall they're just not that great of a team. I think they finally hit that year where they kind of have to go into it where you're like, hey, this is where it goes, and we finally hit the rebuild button, but it's not good enough to get a high enough pick, but it's also not good enough that you're almost in a playoff spot, but you're also not bad enough to get a high pick. Again, this will still scream a Mike Tomlin type team for me, and that's why I have them going 6-11. And when I look over to my cheat sheet or all my work I did 2 days, this past Friday and Saturday, that took me over like 8 hours, at least 7-8 hours worth of work. The Bengals going 14-3, the Ravens going 12-5 as the second seed. Steelers going 6-11. The Browns going 3-14. I think it's going to be very competitive at the top, but after that, I think it's going to fall off. And then one thing I do want to talk about is the bye weeks. I I feel like the bye weeks is so random. Like I feel like the best bye weeks to have is like the 8 through 11. But if you're a team like we talked about the Steelers with a week 5 bye, or the Patriots with a week 14 bye, it just feels like that sucks because it's like either too early or too late. But if you like the Patriots, maybe week 14 works better because you start off hot because you have all the lighter teams. And then right after your bye week, you play Baltimore and Buffalo. So I think it might fare out there too. I wonder what you guys' thoughts. Put down in the comments. But that's all I got today. I'll see you guys next time.